Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ryan. This is the DFS five pack. Mustache Matt is busy for about an hour, helping out his wife to do some stuff. Just like us, they are getting bombarded with snow. She's got a snow day, and he's got to help out with a few husbandly duties for a little bit. So I just want to take a little break. I got a bit of a break, and just go through and ask or kind of answer some questions that we get all the time. I get tons of messages, Twitter, Facebook, email, you name it, on a daily basis. Obviously, 99% of them are going to be based around DFS, since that's pretty much all that I talk about. So just take a few minutes and go through some of these. Hopefully, they help you all on some things. Hopefully, they help answer some questions that I get on a routinely basis. And if not, hopefully, we at least have a little bit of fun and just talk a little more sports like we generally do. So, this is one that I get almost on a daily basis from new customers, people who watch the show, whatever it might be. And it's one that doesn't come with a really good answer, unfortunately. And that is, what contest should I be playing? And that's impossible for anybody else to answer for you. And that's for a variety of reasons. One, like I always say, that there's no magic contest. And it's not like if you get a score of 300 in one night, it's not like you're going to lose money in one contest, but if you entered in a different one, you'd be making all sorts of money. That's just not how things work. Is there a little bit of a difference in them? Absolutely, there is. And I have favorites that I like to check out, but for a variety of reasons, I can't give you a blanket statement on that one. Why? We have different bankrolls. We all have different ideas of what we want to get out of this. I grind it. I am, like I always say, I'm like Kanish from Rounders. I will just sit there and grind out wins. I play a lot of cash games. I play a lot of double ups. I don't even enter contests with large enough prize pools that like you're never gonna see me tweeting out big money like Mustache Matt won the other day. So we all play a little bit differently, and you have to kind of figure out what's good for you and what gives you the fun that you're looking for, what helps you get to the end goal you're looking at. It's going to be a little bit different from everybody. What I like lower entry GPPs. So if I'm playing in tournaments, I don't like the ones with 50, 60, 70,000 people, because GPPs tier the really high ends, right? The first and the second and the third place. Well, getting first, second, or third out of 70,000 people, I don't care how good you are at this game and how many contests you enter. It's still a really, really hard thing to do. It's not much different from a lottery ticket. I don't know who the best DFS player in the world is, but if you're only entering like two lineups per night, he ain't going to finish up there that much. It's just not. It's just a very difficult thing to do. That being said, though, if you're playing smaller entry GPPs, I'm talking a couple thousand or less, all the way down to a few hundred, you can get to first place on a reasonable number enough times. You're still not going to do it every single night, but it's a much easier way to get to the top where the money tiers have you to. Now, in cash games, I like single entry double ups. More number of entries, the better. So if you could give me, like for NBA, I play the $25 single entry double ups every single day. Sometimes I get into a few of them. I like, the more players, the better. For me, it gives you a more accurate ownership percentage. My parents owned a market research firm when I was a kid, so I had to be studying numbers a lot. And they would teach me about how you need more participants in your survey to get better results. That's the same way that I look at double ups. The more entries, the more pure the results are going to be. If you're just playing like those $23 double ups, there's more good and bad luck associated with it, because sometimes player A could be 100% owned because it's only 23 people, but he could be 50% owned in a different one. So I like those. That's how I play, but we all have different goals. I don't know what your bankroll is. If you can only play for $2 a day, you're going to play a lot differently than the guys out there that play for thousands a day. It's just a different way to look at it. Next up, how did you get started doing this? For this, I'll tell you the same thing I tell you guys for anything. Having done sales for 15 years before that, the number one thing I see people fail at is they just get out and do it. You're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time doing this. I had to teach myself YouTube, but I knew that I started playing DFS really early on. And when it was first out a few years ago, there weren't a lot of great places to go to get information. Now there are tons of places to go. Obviously, I think it's wise you guys to watch this, but there are other DFS advice givers that I have plenty of respect for. There's a young guy I talked to named his name's DFS Patriot on Twitter. He's a little bit smaller, but I talk football with him every weekend, and the guy knows his thing. He knows his stuff. He helps me out with some information. I help him out with some stuff. You just get started by just doing it. And when I was doing sales for a long time, we'd get new sales reps in all the time. Doesn't matter which job I was at. And they would be I got to get this prep first. I got to get this prep for it. Just get out and start pounding doors or just get out and start making videos or make your own website, start your own Twitter account, but you just got to get started on doing it. Otherwise, you could spend all your time planning. The hardest part, this goes for most things in life, guys, just, go for it. Just get out there and start working and grinding towards whatever it is you want to accomplish out of life, and it's going to be the easiest thing for you to do from there. Next up, do you do this for a living? Okay, Matt and I like to clarify this. I don't play DFS for a living. I don't play for enough money. Quite frankly, I don't have a $100,000 startup in order to really get started to want to do something like this for a living. I have kids, I have a mortgage, I have cars to pay for, and things like that. So you would need a real serious bankroll in order to play something like this for a living, unless you had a 95% win rate. And let's face it, nobody really does that. So no, I don't play. The actual playing to me is just extra income. When I get my W-2 from DraftKings at the end of the year, I promise you guys, it is not a giant number. It's not like you won $800,000 this year or anything like that. I don't play for anywhere near enough money for that to be like a really big source of income for me. Now, if I was a college kid, and that extra income would be nice, but as a man in his upper 30s with 2 kids and a mortgage and cars to pay for, you guys know I need more money coming in to pay for stuff like that. So no, I do not play for a living. I give advice for a living. I spend more time at the end of the night working with my customers than I do setting my own lineups. Last night was a perfect example. My cash lineup, I didn't even have an opportunity to work on it prior to pressing submit, because with like the Tyreek Evans scratch and things like that, I couldn't even work on my own lineups because I was so busy answering questions. So I do the website, I do the show, and I give advice for a living. And I've been doing that as my only source of income now for a while. But no, I don't play for enough money to do that for a living. A guy in his upper 30s with kids and a wife and stuff like that needs to make a decent living, which means in order for me to make, $2,000 a week or whatever to live off of something like that, I'd have to bet for way more money that I would feel comfortable with. I just don't have the stomach for it. When I was younger and I used to play poker for a living, that was a totally different situation. I was young. I didn't have any kids. I always found poker a little bit easier to replicate anyway. So no, I do not play for a living. I give advice for a living. The money we make playing is just, a little extra fun money is the best way I looked at it. Okay. I get this one, not a lot, but enough that I thought we could take a few minutes to address this. And I am not one of those DFS advice givers, DFS touts, websites, whatever you want to call it, that doesn't think there are room for other people to succeed in this industry. There's a lot of us out there doing that now. And honestly, 95% of them, I wish you the best of luck. I think we can all succeed. The cream will always rise to the top. And even though new people pop up every single day, a lot of them are here today, gone tomorrow. The people who do this consistently can make a living doing it. But my advice, because I do occasionally get that question, what do I need to do this for a living? And there's a variety of things. One, you got to have Teflon skin, man. People are going to come at you from time to time. I get negative comments on YouTube from time to time. People thumbs down your videos from time to time. You can't let it bother you. And I know Matt specifically, if he was on here, he would talk about it. He could already tell just in like the 6 months he's been helping me out doing stuff like this. You could watch, like, it still can bug me from time to time. If I lose a couple days in a row, like we had a bad Sunday. I haven't had a bad Sunday in a while. And to have a bad Sunday, and then Monday we had a lot of the wrong guys with all the scratches. Like even like a 2-day losing streak like that, it does upset me still. But you can't let it ruin your life and ruin your mood all the time. Otherwise, I'd be yelling at my kids and yelling at my wife and stuff like that. And they won't like that. And we want to have a positive home environment. So you got to have Teflon skin, and you just got to let things roll off of you. Otherwise, if you let it eat you up, it's going to be too difficult for you, and it's not going to be something for everybody. Now, I have 15 years of sales experience before this. I've been in a lot of uncomfortable situations. This was a little bit of an easier conversion for me than it would be some people. But if you don't have Teflon for skin, it's going to be rough because you're helping people decide where to bet their money, and when they lose, a lot of them won't be happy. Now, 90% of my paying customers, probably even higher than that, are pretty awesome. And I thank you guys all the time, and I'll say it again. I've actually been pleasantly surprised by how the percentage of positive feedback versus negative feedback. It is way more on the positive end. And that's one of those things that gets me up in the morning, is just being that most of y'all are really super cool. And you guys, and it makes me happy that, like I say, 95%, if not more, not a higher percentage, is all positive comments. Thank you for the work that you do. Thanks for helping me win last night. Yeah, sometimes we're going to give bad advice. It's just part of the deal. and you don't get as many negative comments as you thought you might, but there's still going to be enough of them that you can't let it get to you. So just like on this morning's video, for example, I talked about how I got hit by an uninsured driver yesterday, and then my wife got hit by an uninsured driver on the way to work today. So we brought that up and talked about that for like the first 3 minutes of the video today. And since then, yeah, I've got probably 10 emails or Twitter messages or Facebook messages. Hey, man, that sucks. Sorry to hear about that. Almost all positive. But yeah, I got a couple more thumbs down in my video than I normally would. It is what it is. You can't let that kind of stuff bother you. Other things that really make a difference, like I talked about earlier, just get out and do it. It's the only way that I can tell you. If you sit around waiting for things to be perfect, it'll never get done. Just get out and start doing that. And that doesn't just go for this. It goes for anything in life. Go grab it by the nuts and just go for it, guys. Another thing, being honest. I could tell you that's probably been the best thing for how we market ourselves. I get emails daily from people like, hey, I just like how you seem like you're upfront and you're forthright with people, and you're not sitting here coming on here every day saying that you won another GPP last night. Don't lie to people. Be honest. Your results are findable. Just be real with them. When you have a bad day, chalk it up to a bad day. Everybody's going to have some of them. I don't know. Again, I don't know who the best DFS player in the world is, but even the best DFS player in the world going to have some bad days. So be honest with people, and that will buy you some good faith when you do have a couple of rough days or something like that. They know you're out there trying. They know you're doing your best to help them, but be real with people and don't just, pee on their leg and tell them it's raining, because they're going to see right through that. Be consistent. Be consistent with when you get your stuff out. Obviously, you want to be consistent with your results and your picks, but that's only part of it. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you're going to try to help people the best that you can. But just be real, be upfront, and be consistent with your results. Here's another one. Don't hesitate to demand or be paid for what you provide to people. You provide a service. I don't know what an average guy my age makes, maybe $30, $40 an hour. But like when people ask me to take a couple hours with them to set lineups, I don't have time for that. But you deserve to be paid for a service that you provide. And that goes for anything. If you are doing something just begging for somebody to pay you if they win, it ain't going to happen most of the time. In almost any industry, the people who want the most out of you are also really usually the people who are most unwilling to pay. It was like that in the restaurant industry. It was like that in every sales job I ever have. So the people that are willing to pay the money are the people who also appreciate your service most of the time. So don't be scared to be almost demand that you be paid for what a service that you provide. That's how a business operates. And be yourself. People can see right through you. Most of the people who play DFS are pretty bright dudes and ladies, but mostly it's dudes. We know that. So be yourself, be upfront with them, and just, be nice. If you're not being yourself, people will see right through that, and you'll look like a fraud. So just be whoever you are, just be that person and just go with it. All right. I think that's enough on that one. Okay. I cannot say this one enough. Google is your best friend. And what I mean by that is I get people ask me questions all the time, and I don't want to be mean about it, but go to Google. And the one question I thought of is, I know I get this one every time, what is usage rate? Okay, we'll go to Google. What is usage rate for NBA? And then you get your definition right there. Now, it might take you a little bit to understand something like this, but isn't it easier to go to Google and you're going to see like some of the big boys, like the Roto Grinders, will usually have a piece that they've done at some point. So click on it. Take a little bit of time. It's not a very long article. If you read through this, you're going to understand it in a pretty quick time period. Way better than asking me or anybody else to try to explain it to you. These guys have done this. They put out these pieces for a reason. Google is your best friend. That's how I learned pretty much everything in this industry. I didn't know something. Go to Google, type it in, and just look. And you're going to be able to find the answer more times than not. And then you're probably going to understand it better than other people if you really take the time and read it. To me, that's the best way you can do it. How much do you play for each night? Okay, I've kind of already addressed this one a little bit. I don't play for major money. You're never going to see me. I could have all the money in the world. I probably still wouldn't feel comfortable betting 5 or 10 grand a day or anything like that. For those of you who have the stones to do that, I'm actually a little bit jealous. That's definitely more fun. With no guaranteed income or anything like that, I used to play for more when I did this on the side and I had a full-time job. I have no guaranteed income or anything like that. For NBA, I don't know. It varies. It goes up and down a little bit, but it's going to vary between 50 and 150 a night, depending if I've been hot lately or not. And for NFL, it's a few $100 a weekend, but I'm never going to play for massive amounts of money. And I know that's a lot compared to some people who play $1 a day, but I know there's people out there who play for tens of thousands of dollars a day. I can't even imagine having the stones play for something like that. I would freak out about it. And that goes back to another thing I talk about a lot. This game is supposed to be fun. And for me, if I was losing money like that some nights, even if I won 3 days in a row, man, I would have trouble sleeping at night. And I couldn't handle it. If you can handle it, I'm literally jealous of you because I think that's a lot more fun and really cool. But for me, it's never going to be massive amounts of money. I can't do it. It's too big of a swing for me. I would be too cranky when I lost. And I prefer to enjoy this game a little bit. I like knowing that. And the other thing is, if I had, like, let's say I had $5,000 down in my cash lineup last night. I didn't. I had like 50 or whatever it was. But I got so busy answering questions with all the sits that we got, I didn't even get a chance to work on my lineup. If I was working on like a $10,000 lineup, I wouldn't be answering questions from my customers, and that would not be a good part for this part of the job. All right. You always talk about playing poker for a living. What do you like better, poker or DFS? Well, as it stands now, I like DFS better because that's what I do every day. But back in the day during the poker craze, man, I really loved playing poker. And I would play poker for 80, 90, 100 hours a week. It was pretty much all that I would do. And I thought poker was easier to replicate on a daily basis than I do DFS. I think you have a little bit more control off of what's happening. Yeah, there's bad beats in poker, but there's just so many more variables within the DFS game, in my opinion. So I currently like DFS better. But back when poker was big, I may have actually preferred poker back then. I thought it was a little easier to replicate results. There was less variables in play. There's only so many cards in a deck where you can't control referees in basketball and things like that. And that has a big influence on your outcome. So that was my personal approach. All right. What websites do you use? So I'm a little bit more old school. Like I do a lot of manual research on my own, and I look through a lot of box scores. I use baseball reference and basketball reference a lot of time to check out past performances and things like that. So I'm a little bit more old school, but I use Basketball Monster for NBA. It's the only site that I pay for on a yearly basis. And I'll actually just pull them up real quickly to give them a shout out. So guys, what I like about Basketball Monster is just how easy it is to use. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's other places I can get all the same information, but they get all the player news scrolling here all day long. So I can just go here and I can see it. And then when I want my DFS projections, it's just really simple to use. You click on ratio. That's where I do a lot of my evaluations, starting right in there. For me, for my money, it's about as easy as any of the websites out there that are out there to use. So for me, it's worth it to spend a little over $100 on them every single year, even if I can get that info for free somewhere else. And this may seem weird to some people, but the website loads so fast too. And for anybody who's trying to give advice to hundreds of people at the end of the day, man, if I can shave a few seconds off that just by the fact that their website loads really, really quickly, that's a good thing for me. So I use Basketball Monster a lot. I go to Roto Grinders just to figure out who chalk is going to be. That's about it. I don't really get much more in depth with them. I've never paid for a membership over there. I just like to know where the chalk's going to be. And since they are the biggest name in DFS, they have a really big influence on who's going to be purchased throughout the day. So there's that. I still use a lot of my standard ESPN leagues to check out some stats on there. So like I said, I'm a little bit more old school for stuff like that. I go to Kevin Roth. If you don't follow Kevin Roth on Twitter, you should. He does a piece for Roto Grinders, but the dude is really good about giving weather reports and giving detailed information, which is a big thing in football, but even bigger in baseball. And again, then like Google and Twitter, like I don't have specific people that I go to on Twitter a lot, but I follow 1,500 people who all talk fantasy sports. So what I like to do is get different opinions and just kind of scroll through and see what people are saying, and then use those opinions to help formulate my own opinion on things. All right, what's the most you've ever won? Okay, I don't play for big money, so it's not going to be anything major. The best ratio I've ever won is $6,500 off of a $3 bet. I don't play for big money. I used to play for more when I had a full-time job, so I at least know I had guaranteed reliable paycheck every 2 weeks. And there was some points during a run of cash lineups in NBA a couple years ago where it got to be up there, and I was playing more expensive. But that was also when I worked for somebody else and I had a full-time job. And I was also on just the sickest run of cash games I could ever imagine. Some of my older customers might remember this. I think this was 2 NBA seasons ago, though. But really, like we went through a 3-month period, and this is when you could still lineup share. So I had way more time to just work on one lineup than I did like work on information for a bunch of people. And I was playing for a lot more back then. So I might have won more money in a day because I was real heavy on cash lineups. But I've never won a better ratio than 6,500 off of $3 as far as getting money off that bet. I may have won more money in a day, but it was with a lot more money going in, if that makes sense. Okay, which are you best at is the last question we'll handle. So if I had to rank, I played the three sports, baseball, basketball, and football. I would rank them this way. Granted they're all relatively close, but I would say it's NFL cash games, NBA cash games, NBA GPP, MLB GPP, NFL GPP, MLB cash is how I would rank them. Not that there's a gigantic discrepancy between any of them, but I hate MLB cash games. Never liked them. Never been a fan. I mostly play GPP for MLB, but for NBA and NFL, I find the statistics to be much more replicable. And when all you need to do is get into the top half, I can do that better than 50% of the time for NFL and NBA. NFL cash games have been on a sick run the last 2 years. 2 years ago was NBA. You're going to have your ups and your downs and things like that. That's how I would rank my certain scales. But we all play a little bit differently. We all evaluate a little bit differently. If there's something that you're better at, sink your money in there and go get them, guys. So I thought that would answer a few questions that I get on a regular basis. Mustache Matt and I got to jump back into NBA videos, so hopefully that helps some of you guys. If not, thanks for watching either way. Have a great day.